It's hard to say. I'm a cat guy.
Right, but if you had to choose a breed,
I don't know. A lab? Is a lab a breed?
beats me. I'm also a cat guy. I have no idea.
Oh my gosh, look what he said. Can't wait for them to love you as much as I do.
This is gonna be so good.
Hey, guys.
So good.
What are you giggling about?
Oh, we played a prank on Heath.
A good one.
I know I'm going to regret asking this, guys, but what prank?
Okay, so you know how this week's episode is about the Great Imposter?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so what better way to celebrate that than a little impostering ourselves? So I looked ahead in the schedule, and for the last 6 months, we have been catfishing Heath.
Catfishing?
Oh yeah, and that it's a thing where you pretend to be a pretty lady and then you make someone fall in love with you.
What?
Dude, not cool.
Oh, come on. I'm sure he's going to think it's funny when he, actually finds out the truth.
On the street where you live. Hey, boys. What's shaking? Not much, Heath. How are you?
I'm amazing, Tom. I'm amazing.
Oh, yeah? Why is that?
That's because I met the girl that I'm going to marry.
Sorry, Mary?
Yep, I know. He's going to get married. What? No, I really am. The right person has come into my life, and tonight I'm going to meet her and
Your meat,
propose.
maybe you shouldn't just do any of that at all. That's probably not a
What?
good idea.
What? Why not?
Because we got to record the show.
Podcast, yeah.
Yeah.
The show can wait. Seriously, it's like 10 minutes to her house. 544 Maple Lane. I'm going to run over. I'm going to propose and then be back here an engaged man.
So Heath, I think you should.
Up. No disagreements. I'll see you boys in a few. Place where you live.
Tom, you should
Get there first and burn down that house.
get there first and burn down the house. Yes,
I'm
thank
already
you.
on it.
You think you'll go to hell when you die?
I don't think they'd let me in, Cecil.
Probably right.
Hello and welcome to Citation Needed, the podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're experts because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm Eli Bosnick, and I'll be the foremost faker tonight, but I'll need some fellow frauds. First up, 3 married men who don't even notice if other women are hot: Tom, Cecil, and Noah.
Yeah, Eli, my wife and I have an agreement on those things. We call it our marriage. So
Yeah, I've been doing the monogamy appreciation dance since 1997, Eli. Thank you very much.
So, but my ability to notice when women are hot is why I'm no longer welcome as a volunteer firefighter, unfortunately.
And also joining us tonight, a guy whose real name is Heath Enright.
What the fuck is happening with these intros? It's gotten insane.
It's gotten worse, hasn't it? It has.
Shouldn't have
I'm with
broken
you.
the format. Before we begin,
Just fuck my mom or something.
I'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons. Patrons, without you, nobody on this show would be able to say podcaster with a straight face when someone asks our profession. I'm not sure if that's a good thing, but we needed to live, so thank you. And if you'd like to learn how to join their ranks, be sure to stick around till the end of the show. And with that out of the way, tell us, Tom, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event will we be talking about today?
today we will be talking about the Great Imposter.
All right, Tom, and you followed up my having ChatGPT write my essay with a story about fraud. Should I be offended?
Yes, always.
All right. So,
Yeah.
who was the Great Imposter?
All right, so many times in my own life as an adult, I've looked around in awe and noticed that the adult in the room was, in fact, me. And, sometimes when I'm surrounded by smart, talented, funny people, I feel like at any moment I will be asked to leave that room. Not this room obviously, with you guys, but you get the drift. So that is imposter syndrome. The feeling that despite your successes, you feel a sense of persistent anxiety that any moment you are going to be found out. It is a common enough feeling afflicting about 70% of people at some point. But do you know who it most certainly did not affect at all? Ever? Ferdinand Fred DeMara. That's because the entire life of Fred DeMara was a great big stinking fraud, a lie, a farce, and that was exactly how he liked it. Fred was at times in his life a naval surgeon, except no, he wasn't. A doctor of applied psychology, except also no. A childcare expert, nope. A monk, both Benedictine and Trappist, both flavors, no. A cancer researcher, teacher, sheriff's deputy, an assistant prison warden, and a civil engineer, and also nope, absolutely not, and no.
Okay, so like if Eli's essays were a person.
Hey.
Nice summation.
Civil engineer. I want to be an uncivil engineer and just knock mechanical drawings out of people's hands and break slide rules and come off the top rope. You're the best.
I like that he made up assistant prison warden,
right?
Too. Like, what a weird lie. You weren't even like a full
You want
warden.
to shoot the moon on that one.
To the regional warden.
To understand this story, though, we have to try to understand Fred. Now, Fred told biographers, he sold his story to Life magazine, that he was able to take on so many roles and positions because he sought out those positions specifically in circumstances where there was a gap and a need. Here's a quote. DeMara had come to two beliefs. One was that in any organization, there is always a lot of loose, unused power lying about, which can be picked up without alienating anyone. The second rule is if you want power and want to expand, never encroach on anyone else's domain. Open up new ones. End quote. He called this expanding into the power vacuum. And while there's a lot to pick apart here, I'm missing it.
You keep saying sex things without realizing it.
And while there's a lot to pick apart here in terms of a life philosophy, no major periodical is offering me any royalties for my life story.
Yeah, these days this guy would have a TikTok called Hustle Culture for Real and only go viral when people made fun of him. What I'm saying is it's a better world right now, Tom. It's a better...
it is. Okay, but honestly, if it turns out he was just lying about being a liar to scam some money out of life, this is my favorite person ever.
Oh, God, that would have been great. Now, Fred continued to explain, saying, quote, if you come into a new situation, don't join some other professor's committee and try to make your mark by moving up in that committee. You, one, have a long haul, and two, make an enemy. Instead, DeMara suggested creating your own committee, quote, that way there's no competition, no past standards to measure you by. How can anyone tell you aren't running a top outfit? And then there's no past laws or rules or precedents to hold you down or limit you. Make your own rules and interpretations. Nothing like it. Remember it. Expand into the power vacuum.
Okay. It feels like a Facebook ad that I don't want to watch.
Yeah.
But I do. I feel like he's about to tell me that donuts are the key to washboard abs and cardio is a Ponzi scheme. No, you'll be fine. You just got to take this body type quiz. I fucking hate that guy.
But that ridiculous drivel and bland deepity bullshit might, if you are neither careful nor paying attention, if you squint and you've suffered a recent head trauma, sound like something. But I'm putting this at the beginning of our story for a reason. It's so you can contrast this bombastic bullshit with the endless series of failures that defined his nonsensical life of lying lies from a lying liar.
I'm George Santos, and I approve this message.
I just love that this dude gave a fake name at Starbucks twice, and now he's like, am I a master spy of the human mind?
Born in 1921 in Massachusetts, Fred's father was a motion picture operator, which was, I guess, not only a real job, but a lucrative job in the early 1920s, because the family was financially well off enough to live in the upper class neighborhood of town until the Great Depression, when hard times around the nation weakened even the steadfast financial bulwark of the motion picture operators, and the family was forced to leave their life of luxury and move to the poorer part of town, where I suppose the guys who served popcorn and sodas were forced to dwell, and raise their families.
Right. And they played with one sad G.I. Joe while their town exploded.
Okay.
All
All right. Get two.
While their town
This one.
Cecil was
Fred.
poor.
For Fred, this adjustment in lifestyle didn't suit him. So at 16, he did what all disaffected youth did. And he ran away to become a Trappist monk in Rhode Island,
What?
thus fulfilling every boy's childhood dream.
Weird.
Except being a Trappist monk means a life centered on manual labor and spiritual reflection.
Right, but they make some good beer.
Right.
Like transcendent,
Right.
enlightened beer. I don't know how to do it. It's really good.
And all that manual labor wasn't really Freddie Boy's jam. So 2 years into being a Trappist monk, the other monks asked him to leave. And he was sent to a Brothers of Charity home in Canada. And from there to another boys' home back in West Newbury, where he taught 4th grade, despite not having any teaching credentials at all. But it was at a religious school, so everything's made up and the points don't matter.
Yeah, but I feel like in the 1930s, the only credential required to teach elementary school was like not actively dying of scurvy anyway, no?
Probably not far off. After an argument with his superiors at the school, however, Fred ran away from the Brothers of Charity, and in 1941, he enlisted in the United States Army.
I feel like you don't have to run away when you're 20, right? You just,
No, it's just called leaving.
You just leave.
All right, 1941, you might be thinking, that is not actually a great year to join the Army. What with the war raging in Europe, and although the U.S. wouldn't enter World War II until December of that year, Fred must have seen the writing on the wall, because it was here that he began his life of impersonations. The details in this part are pretty scarce, but Fred stole the identity of his army buddy, Anthony Ignolia, and then under that assumed name, he went AWOL.
What?
Yeah,
Do not really understand how that works, because he joined the army under his own
right.
name, and then also presumably Anthony was still waking up every morning, like still very much in the army.
Yeah. And also, Fred was waking up and not being in the army. Like,
Right,
what did he think was going to happen there? Was he like, okay, Freaky Friday magic? Did that work? It probably worked. I'm
He's
just gonna go
walking
with
off
it.
base yelling, "I'm Anthony, by the way. Anthony."
That's
Not
amazing.
Fred.
He's Fred. He has to. He said he was.
Dibs.
Well, there you have it, or you don't. I don't know. That part of the story doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Still using his buddy's name and identity, Fred returned to what he knew, being a Trappist monk, this time joining the Abbey of Our Lady of Gethsemane, a monastery in Kentucky. Except once he got there, he ran into a legit monk from the monastery he was at before. So he left the abbey fairly quickly thereafter, and he moved to Dubuque, Iowa to join a different abbey. But that wasn't a fit either, so he went back home.
See, he wouldn't have keep getting away if those abbeys had had a Trappist keeper. That's what they needed.
Trapper keeper.
I got so excited about that I had to like search the document to make sure nobody else had Trappist keeper on there.
Bravo. Well done.
Thank you.
And when he got home, his dad was like, "Well, hey, son, haven't seen you in a minute. Aren't you supposed to be a monk now?" And Fred was like, "Yeah, but I quit that and I joined the army and then deserted. But it's cool because now my name is Anthony." And his dad encouraged Fred to turn himself the fuck into the authorities, but Fred would be damned if he was going to go back to the army. So he joined the Navy instead.
And that worked? What is happening? We totally deserve to lose that war. Nope. Okay. No. If it was any other war, I'm just saying the Army and the Navy are stupid here. We deserve to lose some other war.
Interesting, Heath.
It's not. It's normal. We're moving on. You know what I meant. Tom, please.
Now, I would refer you here to Fred's philosophy of not really buying into the idea of working your way up the chain of command. But the military is really stuck on that chain of command point. So when Fred failed to reach the position he wanted in the Navy, he did the only sensible thing, and he faked his own suicide and stole the identity of Robert Linton French and then deserted the Navy.
That's fair.
What the fuck is happening? Okay, this feels like one of those, I was just too embarrassed to ask things and it just kept going like that. You know, somebody at the Army and the Navy had to notice he was missing, right? But I guess some low-level boss was like, his mirror was upside down. Shut up. Just stop asking questions. And nobody wanted to admit they had no idea what was happening for so long. So it just kept going. Nobody was like, international dateline. Yeah, no, that's it.
Also, by the way,
Flips it.
I'm sure that since it's the Navy, the fake suicide would have been like jumped ship or whatever. But for a second, when you first said that, I imagined him making a fake dead him out of towels and laundry under the blankets, like when I snuck out of the house as a kid or something. That was way better.
Now, as Robert Linton French, Fred presented himself as a, quote, religion-oriented psychologist.
Huh.
I don't know what that means, but I suspect Fred didn't either, so I'm not terribly worried. It was, however, good enough to fool the trusting monks over at a Benedictine monastery in Arkansas as a Catholic convert.
Those guys whose whole life is based on zero evidence were really easy to fool, huh? Crazy.
Yeah, as it turns out.
Yeah, psychology is fucking fake. Exactly. I'm
What?
really getting all
Wait,
of us on
what?
board with this.
He told me you can cure your depression with juice.
Can
No.
you? Yeah.
No.
Which juice?
Not
Not
mango
mango.
nectar. Now there, he only lasted a few weeks when he was called into the abbot's office where his identity was challenged, and he fled the Benedictine monastery and he moved to Chicago, where he joined the Clerics of St. Viator before fleeing again and moving to Milwaukee to join the Order of St. Camillus. In Milwaukee, he got into a row with his superiors because he had claimed to be a cook, but he couldn't actually cook. So he got found out again and had to move to New Jersey, where he joined the Paulist Novitiate in Oak Ridge.
Ah, shit. Cook turned out to be way more testable than the other stuff I've been faking. Fuck off.
Making a grilled cheese was harder than faking being a religious psychologist.
Yep. Still is, Ethan, right? Still is.
Fred was still going by the persona of Robert French this whole time, but now he decided that Robert French had a doctorate, and by deciding this and applying for jobs at Catholic colleges where, bouncing around from parish to parish was as normal as believing that just saying shit was all that was needed to make things true, he was able to land a job at Gannon University as a psychology professor, where he eventually was made the dean of the School of Psychology.
Huh.
And at that university, he taught industrial psychology, abnormal psychology, and general psychology classes, relying presumably on his educational background of just making shit up as he went along.
Just like all the other psychologists, am I right, Tom?
You're not wrong.
But why not just steal a new identity that had those credentials, right? It seems like such a weird oversight on his part.
Now, something must have happened at the college because he eventually left, though the reasons for his departure are unclear, and he next took a job as an orderly at a sanitarium for a brief stint before moving on again to become a professor at St. Martin's University, this time in Washington. It was there that his past caught up to him and the FBI arrested him for deserting the army, though it does appear that they were willing to forgive his fake suicide that he had used to desert the Navy.
Yeah. Well, I remind Tom that the military's never cared about what they do with their seamen. We'll take a quick break for some apropos of nothing.
Hi, I'm No Illusions.
And I'm Cecil, something Italian. If there's one thing we've learned here on Citation Needed, it's that lying used to be a whole lot easier.
Indeed it was, Cecil. Indeed it was. Long gone are the days when you could just say you went to a college and it was suddenly true. What were they going to do? Write a letter to prove you wrong?
Want to be a doctor but didn't study medicine? No problem. You probably knew as much as doctors did back then anyway, but nowadays it's tougher.
Google and email have made pathologically reinventing yourself downright impossible, which is why we're asking you, podcast listener, to sign our MAFA.
That's right, MAFA. Make America Fake Again. A pledge not to check other people's facts or identities.
Where if it's said, it goes.
Guys, that sounds like a terrible idea. The world is way better now that people can't just fake stuff super easily.
Remind me where you got your bartender's license again, Heath?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Just whatever you're doing.
Make America Fake Again. Because we're all faking it. At least a little.
And we're back. When we left off, this guy was couch surfing with a bunch of monks. Not exactly catch me if you can, Tom. Where to next?
Well, Fred was caught by the FBI and imprisoned. And although I don't imagine that he enjoyed his 18-month stay, it likely wasn't that bad because as soon as he was released, he used a fake identity to study law at night school at Northeastern University, where it appears that he eventually did earn a JD, although it does not appear that he used it for anything. And again, there's no evidence that he finished high school or did an undergrad anywhere.
What?
And then he again joined a religious order, though now I'm thinking he just likes places that offer free room and board.
Yeah, and little tasteless crackers, too.
Wait, let's leave Lindsey Graham out of this, okay?
Tasteless crackers. Now, while at the latest religious order, this one, the Brothers of Catholic Instruction, he met a Canadian surgeon named Joseph Sear. And Joseph must have been a hell of a guy because the next iteration of Fred was as Joseph. This part is totally fucking nuts. This is why I wrote this story, so buckle in. After taking on Joseph Sear's identity, Fred got work as a goddamn trauma surgeon aboard the Royal Canadian Navy destroyer,
What?
the HMCS Cayuga, in the midst of the Korean War.
Damn it, I lost another one. War is so cruel and full of death.
Boss, that guy, he just had a flu.
I said war is so cruel and full of death, Dave.
Okay.
Now, of course, as a trauma surgeon in wartime, sometimes you have to do surgeries, which Fred did more than once.
What?
While serving on the Cayuga, 16 Koreans came aboard with major war injuries because, war.
Mm-hmm.
War.
Yeah.
And then, of course, everyone on the ship was then expecting the trauma surgeon to do surgery stuff to help, except Fred was not a surgeon. Fred, as a reminder, left home at 16 and did not finish high school. But this would not dissuade Fred. He ordered the injured soldiers to be prepped for surgery and sent to the ship's operating room. Fred then grabbed a surgery textbook and read the parts he thought would be useful given the injuries that he had seen, including a rather major chest surgery, and then headed off to the surgical theater.
Clearly just phrasing everything as a test for the nurses to try to get answers out of them. Okay, and now I would take this sword and this
scalpel.
It's scalpel, sword pen, exactly. And then you're frowning. I would put it back down. I would put that back down, and then I would grab what you're handing me. Yup. And then
But this sounds impressive. But keep in mind, Ben Carson did surgery, right? So how hard could anything that Ben Carson did for a living really be?
That's true.
To give Fred credit, not one of the 16 gravely wounded soldiers died. They, in fact, so much did not die that the story of Fred acting as trauma surgeon Joseph Sear saving these kids' lives appeared in the newspaper back in Canada, where the real Joseph Sear's mom read about her son's supposed heroism, except that her son was actually living and working in New Brunswick and was not, in fact, stitching together wounded soldiers aboard a Canadian destroyer.
See, a Jewish mother would have just assumed her son was moonlighting as a war hero and been proud.
And when the ship's captain heard that Joseph Sear was not really Joseph Sear, he at first refused to believe it, but he was eventually forced to concede the point when Fred had no actual evidence that he was anyone other than Fred. The Canadian government chose not to file charges because the whole thing was just so fucking ludicrous and embarrassing.
Okay, look, I think we all agree whoopsies were made on a lot of ends here. Let's just forget who did or did not wing it while sewing humans together and who was supposed to check that.
Absolutely. He dresses like a doctor, whatever. The Supreme Court dresses like Santa. If it ain't broke, right? It's fine. We're dropping it.
Fred turned his attention back then to the college system, this time by founding one.
What?
Working in Alfred, Maine, Fred succeeded in creating a college and getting a charter to do so by the state. He, in fact, founded Lemanai College, which still exists and is now called Walsh University. Fred ended up quitting because he was passed over for the job of rector or chancellor of the college, and because even though he had founded the school, he was not allowed to name it, and he hated the name Lemani, which I sort of agree with.
Well, the now Walsh University also agrees with you, Tom.
Yeah, clearly. But in what way did he found the university if somebody else got to name it and he was stuck assistant to the regional chancellor or whatever? Right? But between this and the AWOL thing, I'm increasingly coming to believe that we're just dealing with a really gullible life journalist.
You might not be wrong.
That actually explains a lot.
I mean, counterpoint, Heath gave me a third of his company, and now he's enemies with a shoe, and we fuck his mom a lot. So,
No,
people
that's-
make
oh,
mistakes.
that's fair.
Noah.
That's fair.
Doesn't feel fair. I don't think that's fair.
In the 1960s, Fred began working using his actual name this time as a counselor for a mission in Los Angeles. In 1967, he received a graduate degree from the Multnomah School of the Bible in Portland, Oregon. But by now, his exploits as a famous bullshit artist were well known, likely because, again, he had sold a story to Life magazine, and he also appeared on television proudly promoting that one time at band camp when he opened up a soldier's chest based on a quick scan of the spark notes of Grey's Anatomy. And that
It gives you the
notoriety...
salient details, Tom. We don't need to get personal about Sparks now.
Oh, that notoriety didn't do him any favors, and he was pressured to resign his position as a counselor. He went on to serve as a pastor at a church in Washington, and then he had a job as a school bus driver in the San Juan Islands for a bit.
This guy is literally world famous at this point for his dangerous overconfidence. And people were like, let's put him in charge of a boat full of children, huh?
Yeah.
You want to do the metal tube?
Now, by the 1970s, he found himself working as a chaplain at Good Samaritan Hospital in Anaheim. Although his bullshit artistry past continued to plague him, he was, by all accounts, well-liked and actually pretty good at being a chaplain, but let's be real, how hard a job can that actually be?
Yeah.
Now, all his nonsense, however, never really netted him much in the way of money, and he was again put on the scholarship program and given room and board and allowed to live in the hospital where he worked until 1980, when poor health forced him to stop chaplaining to focus his attention on having both of his legs amputated due to diabetes. And it doesn't say it, but I do kind of hope that the surgeon was Joseph Sear. 2 years later, Fred was dead. But I like to think that, well, anytime a bell rings, somewhere Fred is stealing an angel's identity.
And Tom, if you had to summarize
Yes.
what you've learned in one sentence, what would it be?
If you're going to make a lifetime habit of lying, start a podcast. The money's better.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
And are you ready for the quiz?
Indeed, I am.
All right, Tom. Fred fled a lot of religious positions. What was his nickname around the religious communities? A, greener pastors. B, oh brother, where art thou? C, tourist trappist. D, getaway cardinal. Or E, missing parson.
Missing Parson.
Oh, amazing.
Oh. Well, although he wasn't much of a good man, I'll still pick Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
All right, you
Nice.
are correct, I think.
Tom, it took the Canadian military way too long to realize he wasn't really a surgeon. What was the most egregious clue that they missed? A, the way he kept going, oh gross, oh gross, oh gross, oh gross, through every surgery. B, the fact that he kept having to sing the shin bones connected to the knee bone under his breath to keep his place. C, that time they told him he needed to take out an appendix and he asked if they'd also like him to take out the index and the bibliography. Or D, the fact that he kept asking the anesthesiologist if he could get a hit.
All right, well, D is clearly if Noah was a surgeon, so I'm going to eliminate that. That's just dreaming. I don't think he was literary enough for C, so it's either the shin bone. I'm going to go with the shin bone. I'm guessing he was a bit of a singer.
You figured it. You whittled it down. That is correct.
Sussed it out.
All right, one more for you. Which of the following is the best title for Freddie D's biography? A, Prepped for Perjury.
Oh, that's good.
B,
That's good.
Doctor Nope. Dr. Nope. Or C, The Art of the Heel.
Oh, The Art of the Heel is so good. It's C, The Art of the Heel, all day.
It was actually not. It was prepped for perjury.
Oh.
Prepped for perjury.
All right, Heath, you stumped Tom, which means you are this week's winner.
All right, Noah, you're up next.
Okay, fine.
All right. Well, for Tom, Noah, Cecil, and Heath, I'm Eli Bosnick. Thank you for hanging out with us today. We'll be back next week, and by then, Noah will be an expert on something else. Between now and then, you can listen to our other podcasts, which are as multitudinous as Fred's lies. And if you'd like to help keep the show going, you can make a per-episode donation. Patreon.com/citationpod, or leave us a 5-star review everywhere you can. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, check out past episodes, connect with us on social media, or check the show notes, be sure to check out citationpod.com.
Look, and if there's anything else we can do to help you get over this, buddy, just say the word. Please.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know it sounds silly, but maybe a nice bottle of scotch. Drink my cares away.
Oh,
Love that.
you got it, buddy. I'm going to go get it right now.
And
Great.
how about if I go pick up some KFC? You want some KFC?
Ah, that would be fantastic. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Okay, so you knew it was them the whole time, didn't you?
Yeah, obviously. Eli spelled it. Such a giveaway.
Right, of course.
Yeah. I like that I won this one.